El Nintai, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Voice of America.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
tell us, what brings you here? Where are you best, first of all? Are you best in the DC area?
No, so I actually live in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay.
I got stationed there in 2021 with the US Army, and I just actually got out of the Army.
Yeah.
So a little bit about myself. I moved to the US back in 2009. I'm obviously Cameroonian, and I majored in nursing. After nursing school, I enlisted in the Army as a medic. And then I met my ex-husband. We had a very interesting marriage, but what actually led me to being a pageant queen or a competitor was after I went through my divorce, it made me realize that I had no idea who I was. I didn't know my identity. I was actually very ashamed of being a divorcee. So I was in hiding about it for so long, and people would be like, oh, how's your husband? And I'd say, he's great, but we weren't even together. So after I went through my healing process, I realized that there's so many other African women, or just women in general,
That
but
go
it's-
through the same thing.
Exactly.
That you want to share your experiences. Let's
Yes.
go back to the U.S. Army. How was time as, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was an honor.
Yes. How long were you in the Army?
I served for 8 years.
Is that something that you had always wanted to do, to be in the Army?
Interestingly, no.
Yeah.
I remember the very first month that I was in the US, one of my really good friends was in the Air Force. And he made a joke and he was like, you should join the Army. And I was like, I could never do that. I love hair and makeup too much. And I, love smelling good all the time.
Yeah.
But I actually went through a season of my life where that was the next thing. That was the next best thing. And when I served, it was almost as if God wanted me to go through that phase.
Really? What are some of the things you learned serving in the Army?
First of
How
all,
did that, help you understand yourself as a person?
yes, so the biggest thing was number one, resilience. Being in a position where you're out in the field in the middle of nowhere, you have no you don't have access to basic necessities that you take for granted, like hot water, a nice bed, Netflix, right? You're like in the woods with like a small bag called an MRE.
You learn how to survive.
You learn how to
Yeah.
really appreciate the little things like fresh air, your breath, your life. And then it gives you time to start self-reflecting on what am I doing? What's my next step? What's my legacy?
Yeah.
So those moments were very defining for me, even though in that moment I didn't realize
You didn't
it.
understand it.
I didn't.
You didn't fully appreciate it at the time. You were placed in fourth in the
Yes.
Miss Africa USA beauty pageant.
Yes.
What was your platform?
So my platform again was helping women understand their self-identity, set boundaries, and be confident and comfortable in who they are, separate from those external labels that we're all seeking. And another interesting fact is I almost went to medical school, not because I was in love with medicine, I was in love with the title of being a doctor.
Right.
And that cultural, bias of it's important
to be an engineer,
exactly,
doctor,
an
lawyer.
attorney,
Yeah.
So I was like just holding on to that idea, like I need to be a doctor, and then also I need to be a married woman, I need to be a mother. But who was I truly?
All these expectations were created for you
Exactly.
that you are trying to fit, or boxes that you are trying to fit in.
Yes.
At this point in your life,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you want people to know about you?
So one thing that's very important, not only about me, but about just people in general, is everybody has a story and there's beauty in that journey. That's the name of my platform, by the way, beauty in your journey. It doesn't matter how rocky it is. I just left a competition in New York and I was talking to this girl and she was telling me all her difficulties, but when you see her, she just looks like the perfect model. And it was
On
like
the outside.
on the outside,
Yeah.
right? But she's going through all these layers of life. And I think a lot of Black women put that pressure on themselves. They think, oh my gosh, I'm not pretty enough. Oh my gosh, this other woman is married and she has kids and she has a beautiful career. I'm the only one struggling. But there's beauty in all our journeys. We all go through different seasons in life that are challenging. But then when you go to the other side, you start to appreciate the lessons.
Right.
So one thing that I really want people to learn is, again, divorce didn't define me. That's not my that's definitely not my legacy. I'm not walking around like I'm a divorcee. However, that was part of my journey, and that has led me to understanding myself in a more in-depth way. And I want every woman.
And you want to share that part of
Absolutely.
your journey too.
Right.
You're right. You know, these are experiences that many women go through,
Yes.
and to have somebody like yourself with the platform that you have, sharing it, sharing the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Yeah.
I think that's quite important to use that platform. So what are you up to? What else? You know, so you're done with the Miss Africa USA beauty pageant. You're going on to the next pageant. What's the other pageant you're going for?
Yes, so the next pageant is called African Most Beautiful USA. And I would like to say that I chose that one because I love that they go to Africa to render service, right? We're going back to our source. And so it's kind of hard to lose sight of your vision, because sometimes you create this big platform and then when you win, it's very overwhelming, or you encounter those difficulties that prevents you from bringing your platform to life the way you want it to. But what I love about my next pageant, which is African Most Beautiful USA, is they actually take the winners to Ghana, and you get to serve your own nation directly, and you get to give back. And although my platform was built from my experience, I realized that if I can educate the younger generation of Black women about the importance of understanding their worth and their boundaries, then we don't even need to get to that point, right, of a misplaced identity.
Absolutely.
If an 11-year-old girl can understand who she is and what she loves and how to set those boundaries, then by the time she's 28, she's a healthier person and she's attracting a healthy person as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Let's talk about your identity as a Cameroonian
Yeah.
American. What does identity mean for you?
So for me, identity is very separate from culture, right? I think I define identity with what do I love? What makes me wake up and realize like, wow, I love living today. This is one thing that really makes me happy. Also, what are some things that I struggle with? It's okay to admit that. It's okay to be comfortable with those difficulties. And that's all. The importance of understanding my identity kind of ties into that. Now, when we talk about culture, especially being Cameroonian American and having juggled between both cultures, there's people who tell me I don't sound Cameroonian, and you know, I had a lot of backlash, even being married to a Caucasian. That was kind of like, why would you do that? But again, if you know who you are in the inside and why you even led to that person and why you chose that, there's no need to answer those questions.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
identity.
You're confident in your own identity, in your
that's
own
identity.
skin.
Exactly.
Two questions I wanted to ask you. So when people see, you know, former U.S. Army, and then you're in a pageant,
Yes.
you know, they see a dichotomy that
And
is
a
kind
mother.
of, and the mother, you know, a dichotomy that is hard to kind of reconcile.
Yes.
I wanted for you to talk to us a little bit about the similarities between these two, serving in the Army or being in the Army, some of the lessons you take from there, and then also preparing for these pageants. It's not easy. It's not just about you looking beautiful and going on stage.
Absolutely.
It's more than that.
I actually had this conversation with a friend a few months ago, and I realized that while I was in the U.S. Army as a non-commissioned officer, I was serving as a pageant girl, in quotes, because I would kind of gather these girls together, and I felt the need to kind of guide them, like, you know, making sure that they felt comfortable in this job that was like very male-dominated. Like, what are you struggling with? Let's empower each other. And then it kind of spilled into me being getting out of the Army. I never thought I would compete in a pageant. That was never a thing for me because I just never felt pretty enough. I felt like that's for really tall girls that are like 0 pounds, you know.
You felt there was a certain phenotype or a certain look that you don't.
Exactly. But again, it's about your story. And I think right now, the way I would reconcile the two would be just servitude, number one, resilience and strength. And knowing that when you find that thing that makes you wake up and want to do, you do it. It doesn't matter, you know, what.
Do you ever find that thing? Do you ever get to a point where you're like, I think
this
I
is
have
the one
found
thing.
the thing. Yes.
I think the thing changes, frankly, as you go through different
It's an
seasons in
ever-moving
life.
target.
Exactly.
Right.
But in order to get to the next piece of the puzzle, you have to accomplish that one.
Right.
Because think about like me being a mother of 2 now, and then going for African Most Beautiful. if I'm the next African most beautiful queen, I've learned how to mother my own children. I've learned resilience. I've learned organization. So it kind of puts me in a better position to handle that role. And so I just think
It also
that
gives confidence to other people who are looking at you. So look at a
100%.
beauty queen that was a mother of, of two.
Yes.
Former U.S. Army, she's done it all. I can do it.
I can do
I guess
it.
part of it is to inspire also.
Absolutely, 100%. Inspiring others is paramount because, you know, there are people who live their entire life and never get to do what they wanted to do. And then they're 80 years old and they're just in full regret. So it's so important. Again, it starts with understanding our identity and saying, this is what I want to do. I don't care about what everybody else says. I'm going to do it.
So you say that you are you never saw yourself as a beauty queen or,
No.
participating in beauty pageants.
No.
What gave you the confidence?
So honestly, first of all, the healing process that I went through was certainly humbling for me. And it helped me realize that beauty was more than just the outer shell. There were people who would see me and say, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And I never believed that. I was like, really? It was almost like, why would anybody doubt that, right? But when I started to understand who I was in God, why He made me, why I went through this journey, there were times when I asked questions like, how did I get to the US and meet, serve in the army and meet this man and have kids and things are falling apart? But again, I needed to get through that in order to be where I'm at to share that story. So in a sense, I really think that once you find, once you understand the next thing that you need to do and you just trust it, you do it and
Trust
you
the
love it.
process.
You trust the process.
The process and the journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the journey.
There's a beauty in the journey.
Yes.
I mean, when you're in the thick of it, you don't think about it.
No, at all.
When you're going through it, it's the struggles, the
Yes.
stuff, and you're like, why am I here? But after that, when you look back in hindsight, you appreciate what you went through because it teaches
agree.
you something.
I agree.
Tell us about your platform again.
Beauty
Yeah.
in your journey essentially unpacks 3 pillars of confidence. Confidence in boundaries. What that means is raising a generation of Black women who, number one, understand their boundaries. What am I okay with? Whether it's personal space, whether it's the way I'm being spoken to, whether it's the way I'm being treated at work, by friends. And then the second pillar is confidence in self. Right? That's like the general, like where you think about work. What do I do for work? How do I carry myself? And then confidence in physical fitness and wellness. That pillar is so important because I think for so many years, we've kind of like boxed in wellness and physical fitness to be like, you have to look a certain way. And if you don't have muscle, then you're not good enough. No, but confidence in physical fitness and wellness is more like having your routine that's healthy and works for you. Right? Because we all have different body types. We all have different genetic builds. But if there's a routine that you feel healthy with, even if you're not a size 0, by the way, gone are the days where that was the standard, right? There's people like Ashley Graham.
I would love to
like,
get in more into that debate with you about the changing beauty standards.
Yeah.
Do you feel we are, as a society, and I mean here in the U.S., given that American pop culture influences a lot of culture around the world.
Absolutely.
Do you think we've come to a point where we are now appreciating the diversity in people in terms of how we look aesthetically,
Yes.
whether it's your color, your
Yes.
skin,
Yes.
the size, the shape of your body? Are we there yet?
I think we're getting there fast because I actually walked for Denver Fashion Week, and 10 years ago, you would never see a model like me on the runway. Right? So I think even starting with the fashion industry, they're starting to bring in models that are different sizes and heights and weights. There's Ashley Graham, she's one of the biggest models now, and she's full-bodied. However, there are certain agencies that are kind of reluctant because that's been the standard for so long.
This legacy,
Right,
old
it's
school,
almost like,
traditional
no, we're
agencies.
not going to change our mannequins.
They've been the gatekeepers of that for a long time, so it's
Yes.
very hard to but you're
Yes.
saying we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Getting there. I want to ask you my final question. It's a big debate again. This conversation about the relevance of beauty pageants. Make the case for beauty pageants.
Okay.
Why are beauty pageants
Even
important
important,
in
right.
this day and age?
So beauty pageants are important. Again, it's important to know which one you chose, right? Because number one, that's an opportunity for you to bring your platform to a much bigger audience. I mean, there are people who have built huge nonprofits that are benefiting so many people from beauty pageants because they had the boldness to step up there and say, this is what I truly believe in and this is my plan. And with the right support, it grew. However, it's been misinterpreted. Absolutely. There's a flip side of it where people think like I'm competing to be.
Objectify is the word.
Right.
Objectify.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I really think that coming in with that authentic message, and that's something that only you know. Nobody can read it.
Absolutely.
You know in your heart if your message is authentic. Personally, as a 33-year-old, a mother of two, I'm not here to be like the prettiest woman on earth. Like that doesn't really.
But you have a message.
I have a message.
And the story
and
the journey that you want to
exactly.
share. And
Yes.
this is a platform that you want to use.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Elle, we'll stop it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And best of luck.
Thank you.
And, we hope to see you on the bigger platforms, the bigger stages as you share your story.
Yes, please check me out on African Most Beautiful USA, Elizabeth Nintai, and voting is currently going on. Thank you so much.
We will. Thank you.